those who are on top, their primary job as the person on top or the entity on top, their primary responsibility is to stay on top. That's to prevent you from getting up there. In terms of regulatory capture, you're biting your tongue, which is understandable because you're dealing with that. The primary banking regulator is the Federal Reserve in the U.S. The largest or the most powerful influential bank in the U.S. is JP Morgan. What relationship does the CEO and chairman of JP Morgan have with their primary regulator? He sits on the board of the New York Federal Reserve. You can't compete going through the regular channels. It's not going to happen. What is going to happen is the very fabric of financial transactions in banking is now changed dramatically. The issue is most don't know it. Even the bankers and the banking regulators don't know it. We've had talk of decentralization. We're building our product. It's not decentralized, not centralized. It's fully distributed. In other words, you have control of all your assets. When you do any transaction, the assets are either with you or in contract with the blockchain. You don't need a bank, you don't need a circle to bring your Bitcoin to circle, you don't need anybody. You do all your banking functions through the blockchain, you always have control. The definition of money, if you, after this is over, after you go to my website, research me of course, go to the Bank of England, which is the central bank of one of the oldest central banks in the world. They had a very controversial paper where they redefined the function of money in modern society. Everybody said it doesn't, it's blasphemy, it goes against what you learn in Econ 101, MBA classes, etc. And they said basically that the money center banks, regular banks, create money, the Federal Reserve doesn't. That's interesting, but that's all nonsense, because they define money as debt. They define money as little IOUs that you give to somebody else, saying, I owe you X amount. These IOUs are now backed by the central bank. But money is not debt. Money is a proxy for labor. Money is a replacement for actual work. So after you do a certain amount of work, you accumulate a certain amount of labor, you can iconicize it, make a proxy, and transfer it. The reason why banks do not classify money as commoditized labor, which is what it is because they make money from lending. So they call it a loan, an IOU. If you go and do work, you don't need to make a loan to transfer it. You can simply make an agreement. That proxy labor is backed by an understanding that someone else would take whatever the proxy is for the same value that you sold it for. With that being said, that long, explanation of the faulty definition of money, if money is not truly an IOU and it's not debt, and you're able to control the money yourself and do any transaction without credit risk, without counterparty risk, with somebody else, again, what is the function of the bank? What would you use the bank for? Advice, okay. Outside of advice? Go ahead, I'm daring anybody to give me a credible answer. Raise your hand.
Toasters.
Reserves.
Reserves for what? For risk that you no longer have. Excuse me? Excuse me?
Mt. Gox.
You don't need a reserve for Mt. Gox. Mt. Gox was fraudulent because they did not use Bitcoin blockchain. They used Bitcoin. You took your Bitcoins, you sent it to a total stranger. That was your mistake with Mt. Gox. My suggestion is you take your Bitcoins, it stays with you, you have full control, ownership, asset, possession, and custody. You gave up custody and control when you took your assets and you sent them across seas to Japan to a total stranger.
But if I put them in my account, I'm not liable for that. FDIC insurance.
Really? You should explain that to the people from Endless Global, or explain to the people that the way to get their money back, some of it back from Lehman Brothers, or Bear Stearns, or Standard,
or don't use Bitcoin.
Or I can go down the list.
You can go down the list, but if there's a limit to the FDIC insurance, so up to that amount, they should be covered, right?
They should be. Is that what happened with Endless Global?
Well, let's understand and differentiate MF Global, Lehman Brothers, those are investment accounts versus an FDIC insurance is a checking account. So they're kind of apples and oranges. So we have to, if we're going to talk about this, we have to broach this properly. So if you're talking about checking accounts, you are insured against loss for up to $250,000.
Correct.
Versus MF Global, which is an investment account, which is subject to gains and losses.
Right. Okay, he's right, separating SIPC from an FIDC, but you're insured with a system that has the exact same problems the system you're trying to escape. The insurance for the FDIC, right, uses a fractional reserve system. So if you have a real banking crisis, there's one coming up, one of my main predictions, You have a real banking crisis, which is not a different one, but the extension from the one in 2008, which was never cured. It was papered over with hiding the market, etc. But you have a real financial crisis. Everybody here represents a major banking center. Everybody here gets scared and wants to pull assets out. FDIC insurance can insure roughly 10 to 14% max. What happens with the other 86%? The insurance is insurance in name only. Okay, they could cover a very small fraction of the risk that's out there. The reason you expose yourself to this risk is because you took your assets, you gave it to a total stranger, and relinquished control of it. The real nature of the Bitcoin blockchain is to eliminate that, right? You now have full control of your assets. If you lose it, you lost it.
And leave it to contrarian, badass Reggie Middleton.
Reggie walks in looking really cool. He's got a Google Glass on, and I'm like, man, that's cool. And
did he walk like that?
Yeah, he walked like that. That's how you walk if you've got Google Glass on. Everyone walks real cool.
Reggie Middleton.
Reggie Middleton.
Reggie Middleton.
Reggie Middleton.
Oh, he doesn't mince his words. We're talking about Reggie Middleton.
So far ahead of everybody and so detailed, and then he started warning about Bear Stearns and Lehman. Well, he was so far ahead of the curve, I actually thought he was nuts.
He called the housing crash. He called the collapse of Bear Stearns and Lehman Brothers. He's been harping on the crisis in the Eurozone banking system for years now, so he's just the guy to talk to.
He told us how 0% interest rates were starving the banks that it was designed to save. Now, at the time, you were the only analyst in the world to mention that it would starve the banks, and you've been proven correct.
Reggie Middleton, who nailed Facebook, by the way.
Crown the champion, the winner of the first ever CNBC Stocks Draft.
Yay!
Reggie Middleton!
It was Google, which was up by 46%.
Reggie!
Well done, Reggie Middleton. But you know what, Reggie? This is a double amazing feat, because last year you won as well.
I mean, not to be impolite, but what makes you so special that they all want to read your blog?
I can step on toes and be objective and offensively honest.